Welcome to KnowledgeForMen.com, where you're going to grow into the man you want to be. Your life will never be the same again. I can guarantee it. Hey guys, one of the questions I've been getting a lot lately is, can you put together a list of the best books and success quotes from all of your guests and combine that into one guide? And so I've actually just done that. It's called the top 30 books and success quotes every man must live by. So out of all of the podcast episodes I've done, over 60, I finally put together this guide, and you can download it for free at kfmfree.com. Again, that's kfmfree.com. All right, guys, I'm here with Bo Eason. He's a former professional football player who played safety for the Houston Oilers and San Francisco 49ers, and is currently an actor and playwright with this popular show, Runs of the Litter, that has toured in over 50 cities. New York Times has stated it's one of the most powerful plays in the last decade. And now Bo has gone on to become an in-demand speaker dedicated to helping others tap into the power of their personal story. All right, Bo, happy to have you here on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew.
All right, excited to have you here, Bo. And we kickstart off every show with the favorite success quote of the guest or a saying that they've lived by. So what do you got for us? And then go ahead and explain why you chose that.
Yeah, my quote it's a little bit long, but it's from Theodore Roosevelt, and a lot of people are familiar with this, but I seem to have lived this kind of life, and it goes like this. It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly and who errs and comes up short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, and who, at his best, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, at his worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Yeah, that's a classic quote by Roosevelt. So
I know.
What does that really mean to you?
I love that quote. It just, every time, even when I just read it aloud, it's moving to me, I remember, Andrew, once my play, Run to Litter, got bought as a movie. And we were interviewing all these producers that wanted, to make the movie and directors. And I went into a guy's office named Frank Darabont. And Frank Darabont is the guy who wrote and directed The Shawshank Redemption. He wrote and directed the Green Mile. He's been nominated for 12 Academy Awards, right? So he's a great writer and a great director. And he wanted my play as his movie. And we were meeting with him, my wife and I had to go to the bathroom. So I go, excuse me, guys, I got to run to the restroom. So I go into his private restroom in this office on the studio lot. And I go into the bathroom and I start to go to the bathroom, right? Well, I'm looking straight ahead, as us guys do, and as I'm peeing, I'm looking straight ahead, and that quote is looking me right in the eye, and it's right there in his bathroom, and it's always been my favorite, and once I saw that in his bathroom, I walked out of the bathroom, I said, you're going to make our movie. You're our guy. Just because of that quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see something like that too when, if I go to someone's house and I don't know them, but I look at their bookshelf and they've got all the favorite books, all of my favorite books are just all on their bookshelf, and you can see that they're all old and worn out, and there's just an instant connection that I don't even know this person, but because they've read the same books, it's like, I just know we've probably gone through the same challenges, experiences, and, I can definitely relate with that.
Yeah, it was a very cool moment and just ended up being great, so.
All right, and Bo, let's now go deeper. Let's go 1,000 feet deeper and take a few steps back here, and really let's dive into your story. Share with my audience how you got started with what you do. You have an incredible background here. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. So take the mic and go ahead.
Yeah, well, it all, when I was 9 years old, I had this dream. So I made a plan. I drew up a 20-year plan. I got some school paper and some crayon, and I drew up a 20-year plan. And the dream and the plan was to be the best safety, position in football, was to be the best safety in the world. And I had 20 years to do it. So, I began on this journey, and, at every turn, I was told no, and I was kind of small, and I was kind of slow, and I wasn't particularly the best football player around. I wasn't even the best football player in my family, and not to mention in the world. And, after I guess it ended up being about 15, 16 years going to, a very tiny little high school and not getting any scholarship offers. So I walked on at a little school that didn't offer scholarships, UC Davis, and played in college there and was drafted out of there. So it all kind of, the dream, the plan all came true, even though almost those whole 15, 16 years, it looked like it was never going to happen. And it did. And as soon as that was over, I played 5 years in the pros. After my NFL career was over, I just, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself, for one, because, I've been trained my whole life to be the best in the world at a thing. And that thing, which is running full speed and throwing your head into other bodies, that thing that I was the best in the world at didn't translate too well to the civilian world. So I was thinking, man, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, being that I can't play football anymore. And there was a couple of choices that popped into my head as I was being wheeled off of the field after this particular injury that happened to me. It was my 7th knee surgery, and I was being wheeled off the field, and I was just thinking, I got two choices. I could go to prison, because what I'm best at, it might work really well in prison. Or the other choice would be, I got to find a platform or a place where I can express myself like I did on the field, but it actually be legal in the civilian world, and I can actually make money and make a living doing it. So I said, okay, that'll be my option. I'm going to move to New York City, and I'm going to get trained just like I did in football, just like to be the best safety. I'm going to be trained to be the best stage performer. I wanted to be able to, express myself on a stage, and I figured that would be the place for me to avoid prison. So that was a great option for me. So that's what I did. I moved to New York City. I asked everybody that I met in every class that I took, I took writing classes, I took acting classes, I took improv classes, I took theater classes. I wanted to be great on stage. And so I made another 20-year plan, and that 20-year plan was to be the best stage performer in the world. And at this time, I was like 27, 28 years old. I went to all the students in my class, and I said, hey, who's the best stage performer of our time? Because I'd like to take his or her mantle. But I needed to talk to them because I needed to know how to do it, because it was new to me. So everybody at that time, it's about 1990, everybody said, oh, that's Al Pacino. I said, cool, where's he? And they were all like, he's Al Pacino. I don't know where he is. He's probably on a movie set somewhere. And I said, no, I need to talk to him. And they said, well, you can't talk to him. He's Al Pacino. But about 3 days later, I was at Al Pacino's house in New York, and went into his house, and he knew why I was there. And I said, look, everybody in my class tells me you're the best stage performer of our time. I want what you got. I want that mantle. Can you help me get it? Can you tell me what to do? And he said, yeah, I can tell you what to do, but that's going to take you 15 years. And then I said, oh, that's cool, because I work good in those kind of timelines. So we played pool for about 3 hours, and I asked him every question, and he answered them all, and he told me exactly what my next 15 years were going to look like. And basically, he said, my next 15 years were going to be me on a stage more than any other human being is going to be on a stage for 15 years straight. So I said, cool, I can do that. If that's what it takes, then I know how to work like that. I know how to spend time in a certain place and practice a certain way based on my NFL background. So I did it. And 15 years passed, and I did exactly what he said. I studied with all the people he said to study with, movement and dance and voice. I did it all. And 15 years passed, and I was on Broadway in New York, about to take the stage. I was backstage of a play that I wrote, of a play that I was the only actor in, a one-man show called Run for Litter. So I was backstage, and I'd never been so nervous in my life, and I was getting ready to run out. And the lights came up, and the New York audiences and the critics were in the crowd, and I ran out. And I was really nervous, and my heart was pounding. And about 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the show, I make eye contact with a guy. And the guy is sitting right on the aisle, and he's about 5 rows back. And it was Al Pacino. And I hadn't seen him in 15 years. I mean, I'd seen him in movies, but I hadn't talked to him or seen him in person for all those years since that first time we met. And we made eye contact during the show. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Al Pacino. And again, and all he did, we made eye contact, and he just nodded. He just gave me like a slight nod. And from that point on, that was like the best review that I ever got. Just one little nod from Al Pacino. And I just continued to work that way. So my whole life, even, after that play, and that play is being made into a movie, and I write a lot of screenplays for people based on that play. And every aspect of my life, whatever it is, so whether it's speaking or training, which is what I do now, I just apply the same 20-year plan. I just apply 20-year plans to everything I do and work at them until they come into existence. So that's kind of been the theme of my life. And I'll tell you what, Run to Litter, what was funny to my wife and I was that businesses kept coming backstage of the play. They'd come knocking on the stage door backstage, and there would always be CEOs or presidents of companies. And they would come back and they go, hey, can you bring this play to my company? And my wife and I are like, well, no, this is a play. I don't even know what you're talking about. What do you mean, bring it to your company? We didn't even realize there was that kind of stuff going on, And we said no for about 4 or 5 years while this play was running. We said no to all these businesses. And then one particular guy came back and he said, hey, can you bring this to my company? I think this would be a big impact on my whole organization. And we said no, again, just like we said no to everyone else. And this guy says, oh, that's too bad, because our little retreat is in Maui, and this is how much we pay. And my wife and I look at each other and we're like, oh, yeah, we do that. And so that was the first thing we did, was over in Maui. It was just like a big company's retreat. We went and we did it, and it just kind of exploded. And people, kept requesting it. And then the play then shifted into a speech, which then shifted into training people on how to tell their story. Because that's what these CEOs and these presidents and these entrepreneurs, these owners of industry, what they wanted was they wanted the ability that I have, which is to tell my story on stage in front of people, so that they could build their business and, lead and have influence and do all the things that story gives to you. So that's kind of where we are today now. Now I train people, I coach people, I speak all over the world. And the first thing I train people on is how to tell their own story.
All right, so much said about your life in such a short amount of time, and what a great story here. So I want to point out a few things that I just collected here. Is at a young age you wanted to be the best player in football, and you said, okay, I'm going to do it, and you put in the time. Then when that career was over, you wanted to be the best on stage, and you found out that it was going to take about, you said 15 years again, which you learned from Al Pacino. And surprisingly, you're content with this length of time to reach your goals. Now, in today's society, I feel like we live in such an instant gratification world where we want success now, or we want it in a few months, or just really soon, right? So what are your thoughts on this? And why are you okay with a 15-year plan when most would simply just give up too soon, way before that?
Yeah, I have little kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter, a 8-year-old son, and a 5-year-old daughter. And this is something that I'm constantly teaching them. It's the very same thing. As people think they're entitled to success so quickly, or entitled to master a certain thing on a weekend. And I'm constantly having to remind them, because they're being inundated with information and advertising and stuff that says you can have instant gratification. And I'm always having to right the ship for them and give them the truth and say, look, no, we are about being the best at whatever we choose we're going to do. And that means the best. Now, to be the best, that takes about 15 years. And it takes about in between 15 and 20 years to be able to make that happen. That's what we're committed to. That's the kind of life we're going to live. Now, the problem with it is most people think that you can't have any fun or any greatness along the way. Like, I can't reap the benefits of that until 15 years. That's not true. You have successes all along the way.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, once you declare what you want, like I have this dream that I want to be the best safety in the world, once you declare that, and then the very next day you start to run the miles to fulfill on that dream, which is 20 years away, you're actually living your dream life that very next morning. Because the minute I committed to being the best safety in the world, I put my butt on a cold, grassy, wet field at 5 in the morning. The next morning, and I started to run backwards, because if I want to be the best safety in the world, I got to be able to run backwards as fast as the fastest men in the world run forward. And that's just how it goes. So the very next morning at 5 a.m., alone in the dark, I get to live my dream. I'm now living the life of my dreams. It's just, the future is coming. I mean, look, where are you and I going in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years? We're not going anywhere. Why don't we put in some miles toward mastery, towards something that we dream about, and start to live that dream tomorrow morning, and then watch it fulfill on itself in the next several years? And here's another thing, Andrew, that I think people get mixed up on, is the people who we admire the most, like you and I, if we just broke down like who we admire and who has mastered it, who we look up to, who has achieved like these amazing things. And I guarantee you, those people don't have any timelines. It's only the amateurs, it's only the people who are temporary. They always make these little timelines, like this year I want to achieve this, and then in 5 years I want to achieve this. They give these timelines. And I say get rid of those timelines. Give yourself a longer timeline so that you can actually achieve something great. And I'm telling you, that's the difference. Because, look, people go like this, hey, Bo, well, what if that safety thing didn't work out? And I always say, it's an impossibility for it not to work out. Do you understand? As soon as you go to plan B, like, I remember growing up, my brother wanted to play pro football too, so he became a first-round pick of the New England Patriots as a quarterback in 1983. So what parents told my parents growing up was, hey, Tony and Bo, they have these dreams of playing pro football, but no one ever from this town has ever played pro football. No one from our school has ever played pro football. You shouldn't allow those kids to put all their eggs in one basket, because they're just going to get heartbroken. And my mom and dad would kick those people out of the house. They never believed in plan B, because they knew somewhere that you're eventually going to quit and opt for plan B. Well, if there's no plan B, then you got plan A, and that's it. And, in our society, we just got way too many options and way too many choices to actually be really great at a thing. And there's another thing I always teach my kids. Like, I have a son, he's 8, right? So he wants to play in the NFL, which the odds are almost impossible, right? If you look at the statistics, it's almost impossible for that to happen. And then he wants to play in the NBA, coinciding together. And so those odds there isn't even any odds for that, because no one's ever done it before. But who am I to stand in the way of his dream? So he and I are working our butts off day to day, hour to hour, to allow that dream to come true. And so what I tell him is, I go, look, his name's Axel. I say, Axel, look, okay, so we started this dream when he was 7. So you're 7, and by the time you're 21, we need to be the fastest, the best hands, the best shooter, the best jumper in the world. You understand what that means? You understand what that takes? But he's 7, so you're going to run these miles until you're 21. And we know we're going to keep running them, but I need you to know, I need you to be clear on what you're committing to, because that means you're going to be on a court and on a field more than any 7-year-old out there in the world. That's what that means. That's what you're asking for. That's what you say your dream is. And he's like, yeah, good. I'm going, okay. You see what I mean? So people, it's just so funny how people, like, if you watch ESPN or you watch any media outlet, what are they telling you? They're telling you that these professional athletes or these great athletes they're born that way, or they're lucky, or they're just fast, or they're just great and no one else is. They're just great. They just happen to be this way. And that's just not true. So our kids grow up watching ESPN thinking they could never be those players because those players are just gifted and I'm not. And the truth of the matter is those players have trained just more than every other kid their age. That's all. That's how it goes. And so, I mean, and that's, I love this whole conversation that we're having here because I think this is a trap. This is a trap, this whole success overnight and all this stuff, And you often hear it like in Hollywood, someone will go, well, he's an instant success, or she just showed up from Nebraska here and she's the biggest movie star in the world. No. What you don't see, what's invisible to you as an audience, is there's 15, 20 years of training behind that. But the media says, oh, they're just great and you're not. They're just born this way. And it's just not true. So if everybody listening on this podcast, if it's just one thing that you definitely want to do, not only for yourself, but for your kids and your grandkids, is you want to get rid of those timelines. You want to commit your life somewhere. And I don't care where it is. It could be the position of safety. It could be the best stage performer in the world. It could be the best writer in the world. It could be the best ballet dancer in the world. I don't care what it is. Mastery is mastery. Master one thing, and you master all things. So once you learn how to master a position called safety, now you've got this mastery molecule in your body. You can master anything, whether it's writing, ballet, speaking, doesn't matter. They're just different disciplines. All you have to do is apply the same mastery.
Yeah, you're right. We really just don't see the amount of hard work that it takes to become great at anything. And when we look at others, we don't know their story. And that's what I do on this podcast is I really try and draw out the stories of these great people. And like we've just seen in your case, you put in the work for both of your, football 15 years to become the best on stage 15, 20 years, which I really respect. And now with any type of journey, anytime you're going to commit to something, there's always going to come the challenges. And it's these challenges that really kick people off their path and think that, it's not for them. So I want to dive into now, some of your challenges that you've had on your journey, something that really sticks out and how you overcame that.
Yeah. I mean, look, for one, if you're the one creating the dream, if you're the one dictating your own life, you're the one who's declaring, hey, this is my dream. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. This is where I want to be the best in the world at. So you're the one declaring that to the gods and to the world. So you're responsible for your own dreams. Now, obstacles are coming. Guess why? You just invited them. You just said to the world, I want this. And the world then shows up to you in the form of obstacles. Now, whether those obstacles are people or circumstances or injury, or sickness, obstacle, I guarantee you, the minute you make this declaration of the life you want to live, of your dream life, obstacles are now coming at you. But be sure of one thing. Those obstacles you have created, because you're the one throwing your hat over the fence. You're the one saying, this is what I want. So, because if you didn't, imagine if you didn't declare any of your dreams, or, hey, I want to be the best safety in the world. Well, I'm going to have no obstacles in my life. I'm just going to go about my life blown in the wind. I'm never going to achieve anything. I'll never have any influence, and I'll never inspire people. I'll never lead. I'll never make money. I'll just blow in the wind. But the minute you declare who you are and where you're going to go, now you've just created and invited all these obstacles. So I look at obstacles as a good thing. Like, they're my creation. Somebody's standing in my way, I created them. I put them in place. If I created them and I put them in place, I can certainly go around them. I can certainly destroy them. If I created them, I can get rid of them too. Your dream must supersede the obstacles. Because look, the minute that I said, hey, I want to be the best safety in the world, I'm small, I'm slow. Those are two bad things to be if you want to be the best safety in the world. That's just how it goes. So I got fast. I trained myself, got the best speed coaches in the world, and I got fast. So then I took that obstacle away, right, because I faced it. I don't have enough speed. That's an obstacle. I faced it. I trained for all those years to be fast. By the time 1984 rolls around, I was the fastest safety in the world. You see what I mean? So that obstacle I just turned into my own advantage. I had 7 knee surgeries along the way. And you don't want to have these kind of knee surgeries when you're, pursuing a dream like this, but they happen. So every knee surgery that I had, instead of quitting, which is what everyone else did, everyone else quit when they had one knee surgery back in the 70s and 80s. Because surgeries back then were not pretty. And you lost speed and you lost strength and you just couldn't compete anymore because of this obstacle that just reared its head. Well, I had 7 of those. And every one of those 7, I got faster after the surgery. Because I was so scared that I wasn't going to get to be the best safety that I actually worked my ass off so I got better and stronger and faster. Now, eventually those, when you have that kind of injuries and those kind of surgeries, they add up and they eliminate you eventually. But most people will totally opt and focus on obstacles. I focus on the dream. Yeah, I invite the obstacles because I know they're coming and I know they're going to be there. And look, it's hilarious when you make the promise and when you make the declaration, if I want to be the best in the world at this particular thing, you know what you've just created. You've created a bunch of obstacles for yourself. But, that's what guys like. Guys like obstacles. Imagine a boxing match. Say all of us who are listening, we go to, a heavyweight prize fight tomorrow night. And we all go. And one boxer comes in the ring, and then no one else comes in the ring. There's not another boxer. There's one enters the ring. How long do you think we would sit there and watch that? Not too long, right? Some of you go to a football game, and 11 guys show up on the field, and there's not another 11 guys to combat them. We won't watch. We'll turn it off immediately. We'll leave the boxing arena. We love obstacles. We love 2 opposing forces going head to head. We love it. Yet we try to avoid it. It just doesn't make sense to me. If we love it so much, why don't we go right into those obstacles? Why don't we just attack them?
All right. Well, I think you're right, but I will add, this relates to your quote to, the man in the arena. However, I think we love challenges and obstacles, but I think we love watching other people go through challenges and obstacles.
Yeah, but think about it. I think you're right, Andrew, but I would have everybody, your community, maybe your church, maybe your team. We're all surrounded by people. And all of these people are watching us, waiting for us to pull the trigger, waiting for us to lead. And it's time that we take our lives in our own hands and we actually pull that trigger. And the minute we do that is the minute we are completely watchable. People have to keep their eye on us because we're going up against, it's like a David and Goliath story. We're going up against Goliath. And that makes us lovable. That makes us desirable for people, and people have to watch us. If you think of the dating world, or the attraction between men and women. Women are attracted to a guy who's going somewhere. You ever notice that? They're never attracted to a guy who's not going somewhere on his own. They're attracted to some guy who's on the move already. And a guy who's on the move already is going over hurdles and obstacles and destroying the dragons in his way. And that's what women are attracted to, and that's what men are attracted to too. That's what we love. We never like somebody who's a spectator. We're not attracted to spectators. We're attracted to the combatant, and that's who we are. But for us to really compete and combat something else and to slay that dragon, we got to make a big declaration. We got to make a big promise, and then go after that sucker with no plan B, no soft cushion to land on if we fail.
Right. Yeah. Everyone wants to do something, right? Everyone's made a New Year's resolution, but to really understand that the journey is going to take some time and that it's not supposed to take 2 years or you're not supposed to be some prodigy right off the bat with whatever it is that you're doing. And it's really about embracing the journey and welcoming the challenges as they come.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's what we love to do the most, yet we seem to avoid it because we don't want to go through that pain. Well, it's because we've been advertised and indoctrinated into thinking that we can have instant fame and instant success, and it's just not true.
Right. We should really adopt a mindset of, where are you challenge? Like when you start something, like, thank you, finally.
Yeah,
Where have you been?
that's right.
Because it's this challenge that's going to make you stronger and get you closer towards that goal.
That's right.
Yeah, and now I want to dive into the work that you're currently doing now with what is the importance of storytelling in business?
Well, in business, I mean, look, if you look at the most successful businesses in the world, they are based on story. They're not based on commerce. If you look at the greatest teams in the world or the greatest fighters in the world, anything that's ever been the best or the greatest and has had the biggest impact, it's a story that they're telling that we're attracted to. We're never attracted to business per se. We're attracted to the story that's attached to it. Think of Whole Foods right now. Like Whole Foods, they sell an egg for 43 cents per one egg for 43 cents. Now, you and I could go down to the grocery store and get an egg for 4 cents. But Whole Foods sells an egg for 43 cents. Why do you think they're able to do that? And you and me are happy to pay 43 cents for one egg because of the story that they tell about that egg. You and me are paying, marking up prices all the way up to 43 cents. We're paying for the story. You're not paying for a product or information. You're paying for the story that is attached to it. Now, when Apple lost Steve Jobs, they didn't just lose their leader. They lost their storyteller. He was a storyteller, and that's why he built this business. He told stories of where he saw the world and how he was going to make your life better with these little contraptions that he made. But it was all story, and we wanted to be a part of that story. We wanted to belong to a community like that, and which is why they've gone through the roof. Now, it's hurt them when he died because they don't have a storyteller anymore. You can see how it's hurt them. And same is true. Like you look at politics. Look at. There's been a study done, and they studied leadership all the way back to starting with Julius Caesar in the Roman Empire, all the way to the 2012 presidential elections last November, or 2 years ago. And they didn't just study politicians; they studied any kind of leadership. So they wanted to know why people followed certain people. And so Lady Gaga was a part of this study. Osama bin Laden, of all people, was a part of this study. And what they broke it down to was one thing. What all of these leaders, from Julius Caesar to bin Laden to Lady Gaga to our president, the one thing that they had to have in common, that they were really the best at, was they had the ability to tell their own story. Because just like I said earlier, remember I said, all of you that are listening on this have a constituency around you right now. An audience is around you as we speak. Your family, your community, your church, your team, your locker room. They're around you now. They're watching you right now. And there's only one way for you to lead them, and that's through your own perspective. That's through your own story, the miles that you've already run. That is your most valuable asset, those miles that you've run. And if you have the ability to share yourself, like I'm doing on this call, on this podcast, Andrew's asking me questions, and I'm telling you, I'm not necessarily answering the questions, I'm telling you a story. And when you, as an audience member, locate yourself inside of my story, then you and I will go down this road together. You'll either follow or I'll follow you, but we will lead each other, and we will do business. There's a million different things we can do together based on our stories matching up. We only are attracted to people's story. That's what makes us attracted to them. So that's why if you want to be attractive to other human beings, then you tell the best story, because your story is what attracts them to you. You've got to be heading somewhere with your story. And the minute you can tell it, physically express it, people have to follow. And this has been proven throughout time, all the way back to Julius Caesar. The one thing they had to have in common was they had to have the ability to tell their own story so that their audience had connective tissue, had something to latch onto. And that's what you and I have to have.
Yeah. And now what do you do with the people who come up to you and tell you, like, I don't have a story, Bo. Nothing's happened in my life. Like, what's my story? I don't have anything compelling to share.
Almost every person I've ever met says that to me. I'm not kidding you. Every person says that. They go like this. And I did too. I remember sitting around with my buddies, like after I got done playing football, and we were drinking beers and we're talking and we're telling stories about when we used to play or how we got to the league or about an injury or we're just telling stories about, war stories of playing football. And I started to tell my story, and guys would stop and go, Bo, why don't you ever tell that story? That's really impactful. And I'm like, really? I mean, you think people would care, about that stuff? And they go, yeah, that's one of the best things I've ever heard. And I find it to be true for everybody that I've ever met. I've never met one person, and I've coached and trained thousands at this point, that doesn't have a dramatic, compelling, impactful story. I just haven't. You and me, Andrew, we think our stories are kind of mundane or boring or uninteresting to other people because we've actually lived that life. So when you're living this life day to day, minute to minute, it does seem mundane. But when you crunch the years down into 3 minutes and you say, this is what I learned, that becomes very dramatic and that becomes very impactful to people. And that's how we learn. And that's why your story, like I played with Jerry Rice, at the end of my career. And Jerry Rice, is the greatest football player ever to play the game. And his work ethic was just, you couldn't believe how hard he worked. Yet he was the best player, he still is, the best player ever to play that game. And every time he touched a ball, and I don't care if it was in warm-ups or you were messing around or it was in a scrimmage or a 7-on-7, didn't matter. Every time this guy touches the ball, he turns and he runs for the end zone, and I don't care how far away the end zone is. It could be 3 blocks away. We could be on a freeway. He's finding an end zone every time his hands touch the ball. So do you think it's better for me to go, hey, kids, I'm your dad, and I'm going to teach you about having a work ethic today. So I really want you to get out there and have a good work ethic and work hard, and you'll be great. Is it better for me to say that, or is it better for me to tell them a story about a teammate of mine named Jerry Rice and tell my kids about what he did every time he touched the ball? That level of generosity, that level of giving of oneself is up to you, kids. That's your decision. You can either participate in your life like Jerry Rice does when the ball touches his hands, or you can sit around and complain and whine that the world hasn't given you everything you desire. So for me, when you tell a story, there's an old saying, teach me something and I'll forget it in 48 hours. But tell me a story and I'll hold you in my heart forever. And so it's such a more effective way to teach kids or to teach adults, teach anybody, inspire people, is through story rather than information.
Yeah, really powerful. And I remember when I was at a TEDx speaking event, this guy was on stage talking, and his whole thing was that he wanted to become the best speaker in the world. And what he did is he went to a seminar, and the guy on stage told him, if you want to be a good speaker, you need to learn how to share your story, just like what you're doing now. And so the guy, went home and he was like, Mom, why didn't you ever beat me? Like, why didn't we grow up poor? Like, why didn't my uncle abuse me? And what was funny was that was his story, was the fact that he had no story.
That's right.
He didn't grow up with this challenging upbringing. He was, just kind of grew up in a middle-class family with good parents. And that was the story that he used and shared on the TEDx talk that was able to connect with others. So I thought it was funny how he, shared a story about not having a story, and that was what connected with, a lot of people, since not everyone has a compelling story to share.
Oh man, hey, look, just the fact that you've lived this long, you have had to face some demons. If you've made it this far, you got some stories. You just think they're boring or mundane because you lived them. Trust me, there's some gold in those stories. And that's what, and look, if you think, what is your most valuable asset that you have as a man? What is it? Is it your education? No. Is it is the miles that you've already run, your perspective. No one has run the miles you've run. No one's seen what you've seen. Nobody can express themselves like you can about the miles that you've run. Nobody. There's no competition. It is the most valuable thing you got. The minute that you're able to express it is the minute people must follow you. And that's why this leadership study, the one dating back to Julius Caesar all the way to 2012, that's why the number one thing that every leader had in common was the ability to share themselves, the ability to tell their own story.
Yeah, I like that. And now, Bo, it's time that we enter the knowledge round. So are you ready, Bo, for the knowledge round?
Oh, yes.
Do you ever have so many books to read that you end up not reading at all? You have so many books in your library, on your list of books that you want to read, but you don't know which books to tackle first? I know in all of my episodes, I ask guests, what are your favorite books? What are your most influential books? And they always list 3 or 4. And I always ask guests for their favorite success quote. I find that quotes can be so powerful sometimes, yet there's so many available. So what I've done is I put together a list of the top 30 books and top 30 success quotes that I think every man must live by. And these are directly from guests on the Knowledge for Men podcast. And as you know, some of the guests on my show sold their companies for millions of dollars. They're running billion-dollar organizations. They're dating coaches. They're health coaches. They're entrepreneurs. They're celebrities on TV. They're mixed martial artists. Just this wide variety of great minds. And I put together a list of the top 30 books and top 30 success quotes that every man must live by. You can download this guide for free at kfmfree.com. Again, that's kfmfree.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right, Bo, first question here. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling kind of lost or confused and they're not sure what they should do with their life? Lack of purpose is going on in their life.
Yeah, define what you want. And I don't care how crazy it is. You got to define and declare what it is, what you want. Because no one knows what you want. You got to say it. You got to go. You got to say, what is your dream? What is your dream? Declare that, and then start running the miles toward that dream.
All right, nice and simple. And Bo, what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
It's usually yourself. It's like these limiting beliefs that you have. You go, wow, can I actually achieve these things? And then you see other people achieve them. You go, actually, if that person's a man just like me, then I can achieve them too. So it's all, it's your environment, who you're around, what you see. You got to get in close proximity to something you want to be, because once you see that it's just a human, not a god, then you can achieve it.
All right. And Bo, imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do and what would you tell him not to do? A little fun scenario here for you.
That's really good. Wow, that's really good. I wouldn't be so quiet as I am right now, but man, I'm just... Oh, that's a really good question. It would be destroy everything in your life that is not excellent. Be willing to destroy everything in your life that is not excellent and live your dream.
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit more on what do you mean everything that's not excellent?
Yes, people, places, environment, anything that goes against your dream, anything that stands in the way of your desires, you destroy it. You get rid of it.
All right, well put. And now, what are your 3 most influential books and why?
I love, there's an author named Stephen Pressfield who I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know him? He wrote The War of Art. The War of Art, yeah, I love that book. And he has another one called Turning Pro, and I love that book. And then there's this new book that I've been, I don't know how new it is, but it's new to me. But it's really been affecting me a lot. And it's called The Gold Mine Effect.
Haven't heard of that.
The Gold Mine Effect. It's written, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. I think he's from Belgium or something, but it's like Rasmus something. The Gold Mine Effect. Anyway, I've really been, I can't get my head out of this book right now. It's really about, ultimate performance and all these little hotbeds of talent throughout the world.
All right, good. That's great. Sometimes I hear a book that I just haven't read before, and I'm gonna have to put that on my wish list. So, now, guys, listening, if you want to pick up one of these books for free, you can go to kfmbook.com and you can pick up one of these books for free in audiobook format. So that's a free $15-$20 value. If you just go to kfmbook.com, you can pick up one of these books or another one of their titles on their shelves, over a million books there. So now let's go into kind of the last question I have here, just kind of reflecting back on your career in sports and in the arts, on stage, and now as a speaker and consultant. Just looking back, like what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's this. There's a famous saying, and I think it was from like a mercenary, back in the 1300s. And he said, it's one thing to study war. It's one thing to study war, and it's quite another to live the warrior's life. And I think that's probably the closest to a philosophy for me, just because I can stand outside of certain occupations and have theories about them and study them, but to actually live the life, to actually put yourself in the middle of the battlefield, that's what I do best there. I like that. It goes back to the quote of Theodore Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the person that's standing in a glass box 100 yards from the battlefield. It's the person who's actually in the battlefield that counts. That's who I want to be, and that's who I want the people around me to be. I don't want critics, and I don't need professors. I need warriors. I need to in the middle of the battlefield. Our world does not need one more critic, and it doesn't need anybody to give any more commentary. We need warriors. We need people in the middle of the battlefield. We don't need anybody commenting on them. We don't need any critics commenting on the warriors. We need more warriors. We need people who live the warrior's life, not people who study the warrior's life. That's what I love. That's what we need, and that's my philosophy.
Yeah, I really like that. I respect that so much, and it really music to my ears. I feel like it's the critics who really want to become warriors, and they become critics because they failed becoming a warrior in the past and they gave up on their dreams. So instead, they judge others who are trying the path. They're trying their righteous path to become the man they want to be, and the critic is just only there because he couldn't do it himself, unfortunately. So what you're saying is so right. If more people need to stand up and rise and really just start going after the things that they want in their life, and I think this world will be a better place.
Yeah.
But now, with all that said, Bo, I want to go into like what are you working on now? Like, what's really exciting you today?
What gets me on the bed every morning is the best. I mean, I've been haunted really my whole life, or obsessed with this concept of being the best in the world at a thing. So whatever that thing is, whatever discipline you choose or that I choose, I love that concept. I want to know. I want to experience what it takes and what is the cost, and do I have what it takes to actually achieve that? I'm really excited about that, and I do my personal story power events. I do those twice a year, and really what those turn into is people learn their story, but to be the best in the world, you've got to be able to express your story and your vision of your story. Like, where are you headed, so that people know how to follow you. So storytelling and the best kind of dovetail right into each other, because you can't have one without the other. The people that are usually the best at what they do, and I don't care if it's playing the violin or the cello or gymnastics, those people have to have the ability to tell their story, to share it. That's why they get to become the best, because people then follow in line behind that story. So, I mean, that's what's all. Since I was a kid, I've been like I said, like haunted by that term, the best. And I teach people now to do that, because after all these years of putting myself in different disciplines and then desiring to be the best of that discipline in the world, there's certain principles and patterns that reveal themselves to me as I go through those different disciplines. So that's what I teach people to do now. It's like take these principles, apply them to their lives so they can be the best in the world at what they do. And I always think about this, Andrew. I go, what would the world look like if everybody did that?
Yeah, I think the world would be an incredible place.
Right?
Yeah, I think employers would have a hard time trying to find entry-level employees.
Yep.
All right. Now, Bo, go ahead and give yourself a plug on how my audience can follow up with you.
Well, my website is boeason.com. That's BOEASON.com. And twice a year, I do a personal story power event down in La Jolla, California, where I bring you into a theater and I train you, and my team trains you on how to tell your story, how to write it, how to express it, how to physically embody it, and perform it. And I do that twice a year down in La Jolla. So if you go to boeason.com, you can check that out. You can enroll. You'd love to train you, work with you. And if you have a desire to be the best in the world at your position, so regardless of whatever that is, I'm the guy to talk to about that, because that's what I teach people to do. That's what I've been able to do my whole life, and that's what I end up being able to train people to do.
Oh, gosh, book, I just have to ask here, is there a book in the making? Like your story here, what you've shared with us, this is a bestseller in the making.
Yeah, everyone keeps bugging me to do that. I haven't done it yet, but yeah, I gotta begin doing that. Maybe I'll start after we get off this call.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a bestseller in your head just sitting there waiting to come out, and I think it's just another way that you can impact, more people with your incredible story here and your message. So with all that said, Bo, thanks again for being on the show, and, I appreciate your time and you sharing what you've done here with my community. So thank you.
All right, Andrew, thank you.
All right, and that's going to wrap up episode 119 with Bo Eason. All right, and stay tuned for the next episode. It's going to be about finding and living your purpose, doing what matters to you, and figuring out what it is that you want to do with your life. So the next one is going to be with Jake Ducey, one of the youngest authors and motivational speakers around, and it's an incredible story of living your life and doing what matters to you. So stay tuned for that episode. I'll see you guys there.